Hi, I'm Bob Hockmuth, Extension Agent with the University of Florida, and we're here at the North Florida Research and Education Center in Live Oak in our Stonefruit orchard that includes peaches, nectarines, and plums. And with me today I've got Dr. Russ Mizell, who is an insect pest management specialist with the University of Florida and housed over at Quincy, but also helps us in managing the insect pest populations here in our orchard. And Russ, I know there's a lot of different insects that can create serious problems for us when we're growing some of these stone fruits. What are some of the main insects that you're almost guaranteed to have problems with year in and year out here in Florida?
You're right. It's unfortunate that peaches are attacked by a lot of insects around the season. And the first ones that we have to deal with occur during the dormant period. That's when there's no leaves on the trees. And we have two species of scale, San Jose scale and the white peach scale. They all get out on the limbs. The white peach scale you're going to see as you'll usually see the males first. They're white fuzzy material. They ask me, well, what's the white fungus? But it's actually the white peach scale. And then San Jose scale looks sort of silvery. That's what you'll see first. And they can kill the smaller branches on down to larger limbs if they get at them. And the time to control them is in the dormant period. You can use dormant oil. Make sure you get really good coverage. We're going to talk about that a little later. But that's very important to hit all of them because the dormant oils actually either desiccate them or smother them. So it's important.
So the scale insects actually have a shell that protects the soft-bodied insect underneath, and the oil is important to penetrate through that shell so that we can actually kill them. And during the dormant season, we can, as long as we get good coverage, and coverage is essential in the case of those applications of dormant oil. In this orchard, we've already applied our dormant oil before we had the break of the new growth this year, so that has been accomplished. What's the next kind of pest that we would expect to emerge here as the season progresses?
Okay, the next group that actually attacks the tree, there are two borer species. We refer to them as clear-wing borers. We call one the peach tree borer, and the other one is the lesser peach tree borer. The peach tree borer actually, both of them feed on the tree itself underneath the bark. The peach tree borer is down by the crown of the tree, the root crown, and it'd be right around where the soil line is. And then the lesser peach tree borer, which can build up to really high numbers because the adults will lay their eggs where the pruning scars are, or they'll get in disease cankers or gummosis, any kind of break-in or winter damage or anything on the scaffold limbs. The lesser peach tree borer female will come in there and lay their eggs, and then the larvae will basically girdle the stems, and it causes really a lot of damage, and it reduces the yield and reduces the longevity of the trees. So they can be very important. And the way to get rid of them, really, without insecticide, is you have to find them and actually dig out the little white grubs in there, and it's possible to do that in a small acreage.
Okay.
So.
And is the gel that sometimes we see associated with the borers?
There is some bleeding that comes from the larval feeding, but most of that's probably from diseases that they're attracted to, because they do come in response to odor that's produced by the tree when it's wounded.
Okay. So as the fruit begins to develop on the tree, what are some of the other next adventures from the insect world that we're going to face?
These are the ones that really everybody is aware of, and because of the wormy fruit, and they can again occur. They occur from early season all the way until harvest. And then the first one, and the most important one, is plum curculio, and it's a little weevil. It's native to the United States. It occurs all up and down the East Coast. It's the most important peach pest in the eastern United States. Very difficult to control. It lays its eggs on the fruit, and then the larvae hatch from the eggs, and they bore right down into the middle of the fruit, and that's what happens when you bite into one and you see the little white worm in there. That's what it is.
The plum curculio worm.
Yep. And now, plum curculio is an important point here. Plum curculio occurs from about Gainesville north in Florida, and as you go south, then Caribbean fruit fly, same Caribbean fruit fly that attacks citrus and the rest of the fruit that we're all concerned about, fills that niche and attacks peach. So it's still a little white larvae, but it's a whole different kind of
Okay.
insect. It's actually a fly.
I know the plum curculio is very prevalent here in our in our orchard here in the northern part of Florida. And any other insects that we might be expecting to show up?
Right. I should say the plum curculio overwinters usually outside the orchard and comes in the spring. And then the same thing happens with the next group, which are the stink bugs. And I'm sure anybody that's doing gardening or any kind of fruit, nut, seed, crop is aware of the damage that they see from stink bugs. Anybody growing green beans, anything like that. Stink bugs, there are about 3 or 4 major species of stink bugs. They also overwinter as adults when they come out in early spring and then feed on the fruit. And you'll see the damage will be like little sap balls on the fruit, little leaking places. And if it's early in the season, they'll damage the fruit, and we call that damage cat facing, because the fruit will be deformed and you'll get these kind of weird scars and things in there, and really it just destroys it. So
I know the damage that you're describing from the stink bugs comes from the stink bugs' piercing, sucking mouth parts that probe in that young fruit and cause either the cat facing or the oozing from those puncture spots. Also know, Russ, you've been doing some really exciting work with some trap crops that help to attract stink bugs away from the orchard. Tell us a little bit about that work.
yeah, one of the things we're doing, I'm really excited about, are we're looking for things that substitute for pesticides, of course, and we've come up with a trap cropping scheme where we use other host plants that are more attractive at certain times than the cash crop that we're interested in, and we can plant those and the stink bugs go to those, and we can control them there without having to apply pesticides to the target crop. So,
And what are some of those trap crops that you're having some success with?
the mainstays are sorghum and millet, but we also have buckwheat and sunflower, and those 4 together during most of the growing season are very effective. And we have a problem in spring because of the cold soil. Those sorghum and buckwheat don't do as well. So we've come up with triticale, which we can plant in the fall, and then that comes out in spring. And the timing, if you stagger your plantings, it comes out, looks just great. And the other thing you can do for homeowners is you can actually grow these in pots, larger pots, and you can move them around and place them where you want them to be strategically. So it's very exciting.
That's really neat. The good news there is that the stink bugs happen to like some of these other crops a little bit better than they do the peaches and nectarines, and go to those other crops that we're not really concerned if they do go to. I also know, Russ, you've actually developed and have some real interesting ways of trapping some of these other crops that come into, or these other insects that come into the orchard. And if you don't mind, I'd like you to show us those traps and how they work.
I'd be glad to. We have them right over here.